talked to Elliot about that late last night about the, yeah.
Let me, before you say a word about him, let me tell you one thing I want you to know about Eastern people. I don't like to go into old history, but in the Hiss case, Bob, the major problem I had was that Hiss came from such a nice family. He was the boy chosen at Johns Hopkins to be the most likely to succeed. His family were just beyond reproach, one of the better families in the Hunt country, and he was graduated from Harvard Law School. James came from a bad family. That argument was made over and over again. I don't hear this family shit anymore from anybody. The guys in the best family are most likely to develop that arrogance that puts them above the law. Now, whether he deserves it. So, let's see that. But Elliot, they all are that way. All these Harvard people. All think what they want. They just can't be wrong. Okay? What's he say? All right, he's not guilty now.
No, it's precisely what Larry said he did. He showed the tables from Ellsberg bunker on the child case to Ellsberg Christ. But he did this, and then those cables were later back up. This was a case that came up, as Larry said, it was when he was at the State Department. He was at Ellsberg about that's where it was in the Balls Department. He was Elliott's assistant in Vietnam. He knew Chow, as did Ellsberg. And he showed the cable. They were going to bat for Chow. Showed the cables. The cables that he showed Ellsberg were later printed by Jimmy Doyle in the Star. In a Washington Star story.
Why didn't we catch Ellsberg then?
That's a very interesting point. Rogers, at that time, was very concerned about it and ran an investigation. Found that Cook had shown the cables to Ellsberg. Ellsberg was at random. There was no security violation in any way, shape, or form. He had not given him the cables, he had shown them to him. When it was leaked, when the leak appeared in the Star, when the Doyle story appeared in the Star with the cables, they started checking on this at State. Cook volunteered the fact that he had shown the papers to Ellsberg, and that in his opinion, Ellsberg could very well have been the leak on it, in which he indicated his distrust of Ellsberg. On the basis of that, the State Department took the role and then Rand Corporation to make the point of the problem with Ellsberg. By then, Ellsberg was already gone. Elliot can't remember whether he had been fired or his story had left, but he wasn't at Rand anymore. So State dropped the case because of that.
Now, Elliot is not going to stand there and tell us that Cook and Ellsberg, that Cook didn't know that Ellsberg would do such a thing as to show for the Star. Now, bullshit.
It went beyond that. He also, talking to Jonathan Moore and Will Hastings, who were there at the time on the investigation, they also found that someone else in the State Department, a girl, actually later, after Ellsberg knew about the cables from Cook, Ellsberg got to another contact in State, a girl, further down in the woodwork, and got the actual cables from her. He called Cook in last night. Cook says that he has not given or shown any other information to Ellsberg, nor has he had any communication with Ellsberg since this thing. As to the question of whether he had a security problem at defense before he left, he says he is not aware of any and was very surprised to hear that there could have been any because he was given the Legion of Merit when he left the Defense Department. He was on the faculty at either West Point or the Air Force Academy. He was in Larry Lynn's group on Vietnam Special Studies in early 70. He's been at HEW for over a year, about a year. And he's Elliot's ombudsman at HEW. He has been listening, moving around. He was working with Elliot on developing the ceasefire initiatives. He is very moderate in personal opinion type stuff. He's not done anything in public. Or Elliot.
That's a bunch of bullshit I never heard. Doesn't Elliot know you got a time bomb there? Oh, I know he's nice and so forth. God damn it, that isn't the way these sons of bitches work. Fire. That's enough. Get this son of a bitch out now. That's the way to handle it. What's Elliot want to do? Let Elliot resign if he doesn't want to do it. I feel very strongly you need a hard mind. What's Elliot say? He's a nice guy and he's sorry. And we're sorry he did this. And we'll watch him closely. Is that really the upshot of the whole thing?
No, the upshot of the whole thing, let's go that part off. The upshot of the whole thing is he feels that Cook did nothing at all that he should not have done. There is no case against him at all. Ellsberg at the time Cook dealt with him was a trusted member of the
Brett Ellsberg was working in the bureaucracy to screw us on foreign policy matters.
but he didn't know that. Or did Henry Kissinger or anybody else who was talking to him. Your conspiracy thing, it's very interesting. France Rain called me. Left a message yesterday. He was at a football game in Los Angeles, a Rams game last October. Two people sitting behind him that were conversing. By the conversation, it was clear that one of them was a member of the Business Executives Move for Peace, who I think, that's Willis, who are financing McCloskey. And there was a demonstration coming up, and the one man said to the other, is your group going to participate in the demonstration? And he said, no, we've got a bigger project underway. As the conversation developed, it became clear that the bigger project, and he spelled this out, was next summer, we're going to leak some of the papers about the war that we've got set up to go out. We've got a man in Kissinger's office who is giving us the material. And
who is that?
He didn't say.
That's my point. I think there is one.
And there are two men in the White House who will quit next summer and will bring out this information and denounce the war. That all was covered in a conversation last fall, which France didn't think was significant.
Who is it? Just left. I signed the letter.
From Henry's place?
I don't know. He just doesn't ever catch on. If you told you anything about this conversation.
Oh. And Howard Smith had a pretty good thing on the establishment. And he said, people are against the establishment. He said they don't understand. The establishment is the New York Times and all those people. And the leading anti-establishment figure in the country today is the man who sits in the Oval Office. The kind of guy, this is the people, the anti-establishment figure is the kind of guy who puts ketchup on his cottage cheese. And the leading anti-establishment figure in the country today is the man who sits in the Oval Office.
Let me ask you about, did you talk to Ehrlichman and the rest? I talked to Colson, and I've done a lot of thinking last night, and I'd like to do some more this afternoon, this evening, if I don't have to do something on that July 3rd thing. I have a feeling that we have a hell of an opportunity here. Now, you won't get that from anybody else here, probably, except, Colson. Of course, he's an opportunity and everything, if that means in it. But here's why. This is a conspiracy. It does involve these people, and they are not on very good ground in many cases. Also, we now have the opportunity really to leak out all these nasty stories that will kill these bastards. I don't know whether you noted this morning, but even the Times, to my great surprise, gave a hell of a wallop to the Kennedy thing. Kennedy and Vienna. Agreed?
Yep.
Did it?
Skip the post.
All right. Now, to what extent are you getting the recommendation step to run out and make a statement? And to what extent do they have the view that this is not the time for a statement? Let me tell you my view. I don't think this is the time, and I don't think the 6th is the time. I don't think that I should elevate this squabble about the suppression of papers and so forth up. I'm just not going to get in it. I don't give a goddamn about suppression. I don't mind being known as a suppression for a while. Now, and because there isn't anybody that believes the suppression thing, which conventions already. Now, that's my view. Also, I think further down the line, and this is really what it comes down to, if we do get a break, and I can make some announcement on the 15th, then I can really let it unload on them. I mean, I can unload them and say, no, this is not not conduct order of the government. Now, what is the argument? Is how many people want me to rush out and make a statement before executive group today? How many want me to do it on the 6th? How many want me to wait? What is the view and so forth?
Ehrlichman's view is the only one I really have at this point.
I think I should try.
Nobody else has really come up with a view, and John still holds to his that you should make a statement on the 6th.
Why?
He wants to, he thinks he does. He wants to, I just filled it in on all this stuff, and he's trying to sort it all out now, but
he's got so many other things to do.
no, he's writing this, but his inclination is that you still should make the statement. I'm not sure that it's on suppression.
I'm not going to make a statement on it. I just don't feel right about a statement. I'm not ready. Ellsberg is coming up for trial for example. I don't want to get into that. I don't want to get into the suppression thing. The court has spoken, and now we go forward. I don't see anything before, and I want Ehrlichman to have a talk with Colson, particularly, to get his views. But John tends to want to step out. Always, he's a great one to step out and hit things. I'm willing to step out, but I never want to step out at the wrong time. I feel there's time to wait to get it. And maybe this is not the time. What is his argument for? Does he have it because he thinks we need to say something to clear the air or something?
I think he thinks that you will gain by you now putting the whole thing into perspective, making the case of why we have to protect the government's
All right, I'll tell you what you
process of doing business.
I do before I got to see him.
Yeah.
And for 9 to 11. But I wonder if you could have a meeting with John Colson with Moore, with Sally Hughes from Michigan.
Yeah.
I think you ought to have him. Zigger. Can't get too big.
Well, it's the regular group. Garmin meeting. I think Garmin has come. I think he ought to pull his group together and go through this.
What I'm getting at is I think you could have a little discussion about it. You know the history well enough because it is basically so emotional about and to a certain extent Bobby's correct. You should not allow the fact that the papers have been printed that cannot be the basis for declassifying papers.
John agrees with that completely.
Absolutely. What is John? Then what John
is quite opposed, I think, to the idea, to Laird's idea of releasing the papers. He, as I understand his quick reaction, at least, he was sympathetic to Henry's view that we should maintain our continuing position. Also, he thinks we should go on the criminal route against the Times, or others who as well as against others.
Here's the other thing. Don't get a mention from this because Mitchell will not be able to see it clearly. I think you've got a good group there. It may be here that we can use Laird. I'll tell you what. Laird has the biggest spy apparatus that anybody can understand. That's bigger than the FBI on things like this. The FBI won't get into this sort of thing. They don't know how to handle it, Bob. They do not handle it. Now, main thing is whether the Laird group will get into it. Here's what I have in mind. And I've got to get Houston or somebody fast. But either Houston or somebody like Houston fast. That's why on the Dick Allen thing, I think you've got to take Dick Allen on the mountaintop and see if he wants to handle this. Who said that you didn't think he was the right guy? Or somebody did. John didn't, I think, or somebody. Because he's too...
No, Dick doesn't think he is.
Dick Allen doesn't. Okay.
Now, he'll come on the short term. We can get Allen in right now and get him pulling some people together who can do it.
He doesn't need really to come to Peterson right away. Because Peterson you can right away.
Yeah, but we can use Allen.
But here's what that is in the way of it. I have a project that I want somebody to take this just like I took the Hiss case, the Bentley case, and the rest. And I'll tell you what this takes. This takes 18 hours a day. It takes devotion and dedication and loyalty and diligence such as you've never seen about. I've never worked as hard in my life, and I'll never work as hard again, because I never have the energy. But this is a hell of a great opportunity. Zero it is. I want to crack down every goddamn leader it is. And you see, and here's where John It was one in the papers. John Nixon doesn't understand that sort of thing. He's a good lawyer. He needs to talk it. It's hard to him. On Earth, we'll have difficulty. But what I mean is, we have to develop now a program for leaking out information, for destroying these people in the papers. That's one side of it. And to get after the conspiracy. The other side of it is the declassification. And then leading to or giving out to our friends the stories that they would like to have, such as the Cuban congregation. You know what I mean? It's a little fun. Let me tell you about the declassification of previous years. It helps us. I'm sure you know. It takes the eyes off of Vietnam. It gets them thinking about the past rather than our present problems.
Yeah, absolutely.
And as a matter of fact, these papers, in a sense, while they are about the Pentagon war papers and so forth, it was too confusing to be the war, in my opinion.
That was another day. It was other administrations, other casts of characters.
Yeah. So I think it was sure about the war, papers, but it is not about what we are doing in the war at the time. It's not about what we're doing. Now you see what we need. I need somebody. I need really, rather than a work sophisticated personality type, a fellow like Whitaker, who will work his butt off and do it honorably. I really need a son of a bitch like Houston, who will work his butt off and do it dishonorably. You see what I mean? Who will know what he's doing. And I want to know too. And I'll direct it myself. I'll picture it. I know how to play this game. And we're going to start playing it. Now, I don't want this son of a bitch cook in my presence. I don't trust him. I don't believe that story at all. You understand? I do not believe that story. You see, Bob, did you know that putting the child story out, that was not the interest. Talking to that elder, he was working within the bureaucracy against us. You see, Chow is a communist. You understand? Or Dan here. He's on the left out there. No. This is rough. You don't agree?
Yeah, well, I don't know.
So easy. Mark my word, he'll turn on you. He'll turn on us.
Well, Mr. President, I think our press response ought to be we just won't make any further comment about negotiations. We won't negotiate it in the press and imply that something... And, you know, if it goes on, we'll say, sure, that's their reply to a proposal we made to them on May 31st.
What in fact did they say?
Well, they published the first two parts.
Bob, you better fill Henry in very briefly on that thing from California. Just maybe something.
Out of the way, the Ellsberg stuff,
we got a report from California, one of our investigations,
who was at a football game in October, a Rams game at the Coliseum, and sitting behind him were two men who were talking during the football game. One of them, how the conversation was clear, was a member of the Business Executives for Peace thing, or Williams thing. You know, it may have been Williams. He couldn't identify the men by name, but they were talking. One man asked the other if his group was going to participate in the demonstration that they were planning, and he said, no, that we have a bigger project underway that we're concentrating on. We have a plan for getting released a lot of secret government documents about how we got into the war that we're going to get released next summer. We have a man in Henry Kissinger's office who is working with us on it. And there are two men in the White House who will resign next summer, blast the war, and release material.
The only purpose is not to get excited on what you say. Take those actions back over carefully. And so who might be one that could walk out. But you've got it pretty well compartmentalized.
There's almost nobody, of my very immediate entourage There are only about 3 or 4 people who have this stuff. I think if they start leaking White House stuff, we should just publish all our peace efforts. Most of the stuff we're keeping secret is peace stuff. And we don't have a hell of a lot of stuff. Sure, we made some contingency plans once for
cavalry laws,
for blockading High Farm, but so what? We didn't do it. That would be known to more people because that involved.
But you have to, you've got to remember, you know the story on the cook now.
No.
Elliot, there's a completely defensive. But the same first bachelor's grounds that they used on Hiss, I'll never forget. They said, well, Hiss came from a good family, went to Johns Hopkins, and he met contacted through mommy and poverty. He just couldn't be bad.
Ellsberg came from a good
family. All right. This is saying the cook, his father was an actor. How could he do that? All right, here's what he did. He admitted he was confronted with this thing. He admitted that he didn't talk. He turned over to, he went over and he saw Ellsberg, who was in Iran. So therefore says this was not wrong then. And he showed him secret cables with regard to Chow, whom they both knew. Remember the Chow case?
Oh, yeah.
The left American.
I know the one that was locked up by you.
The son of a bitch.
Yeah.
And that later it was those secret cables, those stories were printed in the Washington Star by Doyle. That is how the Chow story came out. Rogers became concerned about it at that point. You know, we remember.
Oh, yes, I remember it very well.
All right, Rogers became concerned. Probably Rich Howard, I don't remember. Rogers became concerned, and so then they checked with Rand, and Rand then at that point apparently moved on Ellsberg. Now why the hell we weren't told about that, I don't know. But the point, Henry, that disturbs me is that Elliot Richardson defends this man because he didn't do anything wrong. Now my point is the cook should go for the reason that even though he was not given authorized people, he was working within the bureaucracy against what we are for. And the other thing he worked on, he was his assistant and was one of those who was ceasefire proposals. You remember the goddamn ceasefire proposals at the State Department? They're terrible.
Every 3 months. No one other.
What would you do with cooking in these?
I'd fire him. But, Mr. President, I may have had...
That's not, he didn't done anything wrong legally.
No, that's two separate issues, Mr. President. He did not do anything illegal, but there is a need to know. Now, what need did Ellsberg have to know the Chow case? The mere fact that somebody has a clearance doesn't entitle him to be shown documents. I have made wrong judgments in hiring people, and in retrospect I regret some of them, but when I caught somebody, I had a man called Davids, whom I caught on May 14, 69.
I'm sorry, pretty sure about the mistake.
On May 14, 69, talking 3 hours early about your speech to a newspaper woman, and I threw him out the next day. Cook, in my judgment, Ellsberg had no right to know this information. By that time, he was known to be a fanatic.
I think you're being too soft on the Cook matter. Let me tell you why. Explain it.
But I think that there are 2 issues. One is, did Ellsberg have a clearance?
Yes.
And the answer is yes.
We know all that.
Therefore, it was
I told you everything was legal.
But secondly, the second point is, did Ellsberg have a need to know? Secret information is given only to people who have a need to know.
There are many that have a clearance spot. A million. You go take it to your secretary. Why does he take it to him? That's my
Ellsberg by that time.
Except to screw the administration and our position on this. That's all.
Everybody who knew Ellsberg at that point knew he was a fanatic opponent of divorce.
That's right.
Anybody who showed classified information to Ellsberg at that
knew
moment.
That he was playing. He was doing it for the purpose of getting Ellsberg information to hit the administration with.
Now, there's more detail on this, so we can go back and develop it. He makes the point that at the time that the Chow thing came up, some of those who knew Chow went to bat for him. Cook was one of those.
That was not our policy.
Ellsberg was another of those.
That was not our policy. But
Yeah, but Bunker didn't leak stuff to the press.
Neither did these people at the time. This was
Yeah, but if Cook gave classified information to
He did not give
Ellsberg,
it to him. He showed it.
Well, hell, the difference. Showing it to him is giving it to him, Bob. Classified information is not even, you're supposed to turn paper or somebody walks in the door.
Bunker talked to Jew.
Bunker talked to you.
Yeah, but that's a different thing from...
Here's what they were trying to do, was to work through Ellsberg and the press to put pressure on the administration. I don't believe in that. I do not believe in that. Okay, just don't let Elliot come in and those sons of bitches. Now, that's all. I'm just not going to let him do it. But now you get, when you get to Ehrlichman now, will you please I want you to find me a man by noon. I won't be ready to walk to 12:30. A recommendation of the man to work directly with me on this whole situation. You know what I mean? I've got to have one. I've got to have one. I mean, I can't have a high-minded lawyer like John Ehrlichman or Dean or somebody like that. I want a son of a bitch. I want somebody that's just as tough as I am for a change. Just as tough as I was, I would say, in his case. Where we won the case in the press. These goddamn lawyers, all whining around about, I never forget that they were also worried about the Manson case. I know exactly what we were doing on the Manson. You got to win some things in the press. These guys don't understand. They have no understanding of politics. They have no understanding of public relations. John Mitchell's that way. John Mitchell, always worried about, is it technically correct? Do you think, for Christ's sakes, the New York Times is worrying about all the legal niceties the sons of bitches are killing them? They're they got by leaking the press. This is what we've got to get. I want you to shake these bunch up around here. Now, you do it. Shake them up. Get them off their goddamn dead asses and say, no, that isn't what this is talking about. We're up against an enemy, a conspiracy. They're using any means. We are going to use any means. Is that clear? Did they get the Brookings Institute rated last night? No. Get it done. I want it done. I want the Brookings Institute, say, cleaned out. And have it cleaned out in a way that it ain't somebody else look at.
Ask Haig about Dick Cook. If Cook gave a classified document to Ellsberg to read, he did it with... It's one thing for Bunker to talk to you, to chew.
What he gave him was the cables from Bunker.
My God!
Yeah.
Unbelievable!
Yeah, but Bunker...
was sending those to me.
But Bunker was doing a lot of these things for the record, so that we could say we had made an effort.
That's right. Listen, I sent a message to Bunker saying, do everything you can. In fact, I said, treat Joe well, because he's a potential monitor. Remember? I'll bet that's another thing here, where I said, do this.
Bunker is very careful.
Well,
He
okay.
doesn't...
Those papers ran. Whatever it was he did, they ran in the Washington Star at the time.
Oh yeah, I remember them, but the fact is that anybody who shows a paper to
Get on the
Ellsberg...
working thing, right? I've got to get that my safe crack over there. You tell Haig on your own staff, he is to Coleman the fine tooth. Do anything he needs. Wiretap, just to be sure we don't have a couple of them walking out. Only those that matter, understand? There must be 3 or 4. You just never know, Henry. You never know these days. I don't trust anybody in our own staff, except Haldeman, maybe.
No, Haldeman you can trust.
That's right. True.
Haldeman you can trust.
I mean, they're...
No, I think you can trust your own people.
Other people, what I meant is I don't trust them because they decide it's a matter of judgment. They know better than I do, or anybody does. You've got to watch that, you see.
But they still wouldn't go to leaking data. And nobody on your immediate staff would...
Well, our staff never.
I mean, the people who've been with you.
Never.
That couldn't happen.
I trust their loyalty, but not their judgment.
No, their judgment, that's a different matter.
Yeah, you should.
I'll be damned. When we came in, I deliberately took a few of these liberaloids in order to give ourselves some protective coloration.
Sure, good idea.
I thought I got rid of most of them.
You probably did.
But what I never frankly considered was the lengths to which those bastards would go. I thought that when they had served their usefulness, I'd get rid of them. It never occurred to me that there'd be a wholesale theft of government documents. That just never crossed my mind. And as I look
Get the document thing out of the way. Here's what my plan is. I'm taking charge of it myself. These boys don't know how to play this game. And it's got to be played in the press. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
Mitchell, for Christ's sake, talking about, apparently, I was really surprised yesterday. He was so really overwhelmed by the repression argument. We don't want to be a repression. It doesn't make any difference.
No difference.
I don't give a goddamn on repression. Do you? No. I don't think we're losing it for a soul, and if we do, it'll come back. But let me tell you what I'm going to say. Henry, I won this case in the press. Let me tell you what happened. Everyone was against me. Clark, who later became a judge in the Supreme Court, Tom Clark, was the Attorney General. He's a good man, actually. He was told to come in. He was against it. I was all before a grand jury in New York, told to give up the fucking papers to the grand jury. I refused risking contempt of the grand jury because I said I will not give it to the Department of Justice because they are out to clear his conviction. I played it in the press like a master. I leaked out the papers. I leaked out everything that I could. I leaked out the testimony. I had Hiss convicted before he ever got to the grand jury. And then when the grand jury got there, the Justice Department, trying desperately to clear it, couldn't do it. The grand jury did indict him. And then a good Irish U.S. Attorney, Murphy, convicted him. Now, why did I do that? I did that because I knew I was fighting people who had power and who go into the FBI didn't play with me. Edgar Hoover, he didn't play with me until after they got the indictment. And you just read that story in the Hiss case in Six Crises again, you'll see what I mean. It's true, every bottom word of it is. Now, how do you fight this? You can't fight this with gentlemanly gloves and other things. You appear to be. Now, Ehrlichman is going to go forward on this same line, on this same basis. He's going to go forward on this basis of the pushing of the just an orderly classification. He opposes the Laird plan, so that's good, and I've got him in charge here. Second point is that beyond that, though, I am taking charge of overheard, and I am going to have it done by somebody other than Ehrlichman.
You mean like the Cuban Missile Crisis?
I mean everything. I mean, we're going to leak out bits and pieces. First of all, two different things. The conspiracy. All evidence that we find with regard to the conspiracy is going to be leaked to columnists and the rest, and we'll kill these sons of bitches. This Cook, I'm going to get him killed, then him get in the papers denied.
Well, I frankly think he ought to be fired, Mr. President. Cook admits now he gave it to Ellsberg, but he says Ellsberg was working for the Rand Corporation, and therefore
it was not illegal. And that bunker also was for Joe.
Haldeman knows Cook admits that he gave the Choke papers to Ellsberg, and then they appeared in the Washington press.
All right, now that's the thing. I'm going to get these things out. I'm going to get some.
No, that conspiracy thing.
I'm going to go after the conspiracy, and then I'm also going to release some papers. But the reason we do that, we just kind of let the press be talking about other periods of time for a while. It may give us a chance to play our own games.
I understand.
Tough deal. But the idea, why does Elliot sit there and defend the son of a bitch?
Well, I must say, Mr. President, it's inexcusable. He ought to be out by the end of the day today. And Ellsberg, anyone who gives a paper to Ellsberg,
no, I'm not satisfied with this Cook thing. I personally think he should be out. I will not talk to Elliot about it. You try to work it out any way you can. If he does not want him out, then I want you to find a way to get the story out of him. Now, you understand what I'm talking about? All right. Get Colson in, get a story out, and get one to a reporter who will use it. Give him the facts, and we'll kill him in the press. Is that clear? And I play it gloves off. Now, goddamn it, get it going on.
The President also mentioned to me that they heard from some investigators who overheard the conversation saying that somebody on my staff is cooperating
conversation occurred. All we want to say is that you've got to now comb that staff with a fine-tooth comb, see that nobody has access to anything you have any doubts about. I mean, test them, that's kind of...
The really hot stuff is in no one has access.
Well, that's right. Keep the hot stuff, you know, from... Well, how can anybody get... You get your stuff pretty well locked up, haven't you? You keep it over.
That's kept on this side. On the other side, who could it be? I don't know.
What was the other side?
Well, in the executive office building,
Yeah.
there are a lot of guys doing analyses, but I don't know what good an analysis is to anybody.
Okay, we understand. Okay.
Will you look over the staff while I'm gone now?
Yeah, I understand. Everybody gets the feel that he sees a contents under the bed, every bed, and you don't want to get that way. But it's just well to be a little cautious now, that's all I'm saying. Any intellectual is tempted to put himself above the law. That's the rule that I've known all my life. Any intellectual, particularly from, watch what schools they're from. If they're from any Eastern schools, or Berkeley, those are particularly the potential bad ones. Is that what you understand? Yes, sir.